handout, because I'm kind of like a nerd. So, hence why my handout is like matchy and colorful. You see it. Just scroll through it and just admire it for just the next minute until class. Then what's this class called? No, I was just telling you to admire my handout. It was really just a selfless plug for my handout. What is it? Share fair handouts, it should say. Keep scrolling until you find share fair handouts. Second one. Mindy, could you find mine for you guys? It's got to be time. Okay, it's 10:30, so we're going to start. If you already know what the Enneagram is, and you know what your number is, raise your hand. Okay. If you, don't really know much about the Enneagram, raise your hand. Even. Okay, great. Awesome. So there'll be something for everyone in this class, and I have my own little take as well. So hopefully you enjoy that. The Enneagram, everyone have their handout? Raise your hand if you have the handout in front of you on your phone. Okay, enough of you. If you're near somebody who has it, just lean over, even if you don't know them. Just get right in there.
Make a friend.
Make a friend. Yes. Okay. The Enneagram helps us develop a deeper understanding of others and recognize our own goals, motivations, and patterns of behavior. It's very similar to a personality test. You take a test, it gives you a type. The type kind of explains what you do, why you do it. It's very basic, but complex in the way that it connects to itself. But before I get into the Enneagram specifically, I want to just talk a little bit about how God created us. And I think we spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to not be what God made us to be. We look at ourselves and we think, man, if I could be like that, if I could be different than what He made me, then maybe I'd be a better person, But Psalm 139 says, "For you formed my inward parts. You covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works." Marvelous are your works were one of His works. And that my soul knows that very well. Ephesians 2:10 says, "For we are His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them." Colossians 1:16, "For by Him all things were created that are in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or principalities or powers, all things were created through Him and for Him." And when you look at yourself and you think, He created me blah 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 way, but instead I want to be that over there, you're kind of insulting God. Like your creation wasn't good enough, let me fix it for you. On the flip side of that, we do have a responsibility though to grow. And this is why I love the Enneagram, because it's not just, if you take another personality test and it says you're type A, here's your list of things, it's just what you are. But the Enneagram, the way that it kind of moves, and you can, when you're stressed, you act different, right? You get stressed and all of a sudden you're like, I'm crazy now. When I get stressed, I can usually be so social and wild, but when I get stressed, I'll be in the other room where no one is, by myself, just alone, because that's me, I withdraw when I'm stressed. And we know that. So we actually do have a responsibility to adjust our behavior to be more like Christ. And I have a couple of scriptures on that. Romans 12:2 says, "And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God." 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. Old things have passed away, behold, all things have become new." In Ephesians 4, starting at verse 19, "They have become callous and given themselves up to sensuality, greedy, and practice every kind of impurity. But that is not the way you learned Christ, assuming that you have heard about Him, and you were taught in Him as the truth is in Jesus, to put off your old self, which belongs to your former manner of life, and is corrupt through deceitful desires, and to be renewed in the spirit of your minds, and to put on the new self created after the likeness of God in true righteousness and holiness. And they're not going to have time today to really get in all the ways that the Enneagram actually helps you to do those things. But when you look at the way you act when you get stressed, or the way you act when you're at rest or at peace, there's ways that you can access parts of you that are already there in a more healthy, Christ-like way. And that's why I enjoy the Enneagram above other personality tests. And I have resources for you though. So if you listen to this class and you're like, man, I'm really interested in how to do that or what that means, I'm going to say that at the end, and hopefully you can leave this class and research more and look up more stuff that would help you even more than what I can do in now 31 minutes. So, your next slide, what is the Enneagram? It's like about a bunch of paragraphs. I'm going to go through this. You'll see, if you're looking at your handout, there's that colorful chart with a bunch of numbers, right? So the Enneagram is basically a psychological system that helps explain why we do what we do. Other personality tests just tell you, this is what you do. You know, you're bossy, and you're quiet, or you're quiet, and but the Enneagram tells us why we're doing that. Because I might be bossy, I am bossy, and somebody else might be bossy, but we have two different motives. So that's why I like the Enneagram. The Enneagram gives you a type, numbered 1 through 9. You see that little circle? They're all connected. Numbered 1 through 9. The numbers are shown on a circle, they're connected to the other types, which helps us understand how we may shift under different circumstances. So each number is like your motivation, but when you get stressed, you might act like a different number, or take on those characteristics. You haven't changed into that other motivation, it's just different actions that you have. The Enneagram isn't your average personality test. A better way to explain it is a character test. But more than that, it doesn't put us into a box, but rather shows us our motivations and the ways that we can get outside our boxes in order to grow, change, and adapt to the good, bad, and ugly in a life in this world. It shows us the areas we need to change and the path to get there. The first step to learning more about ourselves is knowing why we're doing it. And that's why I love the Enneagram. Because when we learn why we do what we do, we actually can change. If we don't know why we're even doing it, we just keep stumbling along. And I read this example in one of the books that I was reading, and it said, if we try to alter just what we do, like if we say, I watch too much TV, so that means I'm lazy. Tomorrow, I'm waking up at 5 a.m., I'm working out, and then what happens tomorrow, right? Our alarm goes off at 5 and we're like, snooze, snooze. And then we're like, well, see, I'm lazy. And that's like the pattern. We don't even know why we're watching too much TV, and we just try to change our actions without understanding the motivation behind it. If we say, I watch too much TV. Why am I watching too much TV? Well, I feel too tired to do anything else. Why am I tired? Well, I spent all day helping other people and their needs and neglected anything I needed, and so maybe I should adjust that behavior. And then I wouldn't end my day feeling like, oh, I just need to lay on the couch. Right? Does that make sense? So that's why I really enjoy the Enneagram. We're learning why we're doing what we're doing. And I do also want to have a little note here. Things the Enneagram is not, because people, once you learn more about this, if you already know, you might have experienced this. If you don't know, you might experience this in the future. But it's not a box to put yourself in. You're more than your personality, habits, tendencies, and autopilot reactions. And as Christians, we know that we're constantly thinking like, how can I adjust myself? How can I be more like Christ? How can I show Christ to other people? So we don't just say like, well, I'm an 8 and I'm bossy, so I'm just going to boss you around. I have to figure out how not to be like that. I can still be me, but I'm adjusting my behavior to be more like Christ. So it's not an excuse for me to just say like, well, sorry about you, because I'm a bad person and you just have to deal with it. That's not it, okay? It's also not a weapon to belittle, mock, or judge other people. Like, oh yeah, well, she's a 5, but not so. I did that, I made a mistake right before this class. I'm not gonna say who, but I feel the conviction after this. Okay, a shield of self-justification or a reason to avoid self-reflection or excuse your behaviors. You don't get to just wash over stuff. You actually do have to address it. It's not a hierarchy. One number is not better than another number. We're all different. We're equally different. God created us how He wanted us, and one of us is not better than the other. And the last thing I want to say is that The Enneagram, the more you research and learn, it's not the gospel, it's not the Bible, it's not infallible. It doesn't supersede the Bible, it's only a tool to kind of learn more about ourselves, about our basic motivations, and try to help us change. And we need Jesus for that. But Jesus gives us tools that we can use in our lives. So I'm going to talk more about that's kind of my overview of like why should we use this tool, kind of how does it play out, and then I'm going to get into describing all those numbers a little bit more. So the first thing I want to talk about is what they call triads, and each of the numbers are grouped into, there's 3 triads. So, excuse me. The first, is everybody looking at that little circle? Okay. So the green are 2, 3s, and 4s. And if you've taken the test and you know if you're a 2, 3, or 4, would you just raise your hand? Okay, so you guys are in the Feelings Triad. The Feelings Triad, also referred to as the heart center, this is made up of 2, 3s, and 4s. You are going to react to life first mostly through your emotions. And if you're these numbers, you're thinking, yeah, I do. And you might struggle with shame and a desire to be significant. Types in this feeling triad are often very aware of how others are perceiving them. They also play out their emotions either by externalizing them, internalizing them, or suppressing them, trying to act like they don't exist. If you're in this triad and you're kind of related to some of these, I see some nods, so yes. So these types may have trouble asking for help, but they also believe that relational connection is very important. Relational connection. If you're in the Feelings Triad, if you're a 2, 3, or 4, and if you don't know your number and you're hearing some of that, you might even be connecting like some of that sounds like me a little. The next triad is the blue, so it's 5, 6, and 7. You guys see that? Those 3 numbers in the blue are just going around the circle. You can zoom in probably to see that tiny little circle, because I know it's probably itty bitty on your phones. It's small on my giant computer, so just let yourself zoom in. The thinking triad, also referred to as the head center, is made up of types 5, 6, and 7. If you're a 5, 6, or 7 in the room, raise your hand. A little less? Okay. We got some? They react to life first and mostly through their thoughts. They can struggle with anxiety and a desire for security. Types in the thinking triad often make mental connections that others can't see. They'll just think through it and they connect all that in their minds. But their minds are always working overtime and kind of hard to quiet. You can't really quiet your thoughts. They're just constantly going. I'm seeing the nods from a few that are in the room. These types can be suspicious of others' motives, and they may not be aware that anxiety is something they experience. Instead, they might see it as troubleshooting, problem solving, or making plans. So, the nods and the laughs. Okay. The last triad is the orange. On the top there, it's 8s, 9s, and 1s. If you're an 8, 9, or 1 in the room, or you know your number, I'm an 8. You got some 8s, 9s, 1s. Good. This is the gut center. These are types 8s, 9s, and 1s. We react to life first mostly through our guts. Like, I'll just get a feeling in 1 second, and I just know it. I just feel it in my bones. I didn't think about it. I didn't have all these gushy emotions. It's a gut instinct. And usually it's right. Because God created us this way. That's why the thinking triad, they can connect in their minds thought processes that we others can't see. God made them that way. So in this triad, though, we struggle with anger and a desire for justice. Types in the instinctive triad often try to control their outer environments and their inner world, either through self-control, aggressiveness, or self-suppression. These types are most likely to follow a hunch, even if their thoughts and feelings don't support it, and can convert many emotions into anger. Did anybody relate if you were in that triad? Kind of relate to some of that? Yeah, same. Charlie? Okay. I'm just calling people out that no one in the room knows, but it's okay. I'm making such good time. I've been so stressed out about the time. I taught this series at my church, and see, I'm getting free now. It's story time. I taught this, and it's a 6-week series, an hour each. And I'm like, how am I going to take 6 hours? And I didn't get to everything at that. How am I going to take 6 hours? talk about it 35 minutes, but the Lord is with me. Is with me. Okay, so now we're going to actually overview each type. So this is where you scroll down in your handout, and we're looking at a 1, the perfectionist. You see this number here? Okay, so if you have tested or you haven't tested, if you know you're a 1 or you're thinking, I don't know what number I am, listen up because you might relate to some of this stuff. A 1 is called a perfectionist. They are ethical, dedicated, and reliable. They're motivated by a desire to live the right way, improve the world, and avoid fault and blame. The 1s are going to walk into the room and immediately see everything that needs to be fixed. I like just saying sentences and you guys relate so well. They're like, calling me out. You can, if you're, say you're married to a 1 and you've cleaned the whole house, and your 1 husband is going to walk home and walk in the door and be like, why are these forks out? And you're like, I've cleaned everything. I just forgot those 2 forks. And that's all they see though. They only see the mistakes. But we need these people because we don't all see all the mistakes, and we need the ones to point out the things that we need to correct or fix. Some of you are married to 1s and now you're feeling it. I also, when I look at the Enneagram and I see this full circle, God created us to be His body. And when we're all together, we reflect God in His fullness when we have all of us in a group. And 1s, so since we're all created in the image of God, we resemble Him in certain ways. That's why we need all of us together to make the complete body of Christ. If you put us together, we resemble a fuller image of God to the world. I don't resemble all of God to the world because I need you to help me do that. And 1s reflect the perfection of God. He's perfect, right? Although 1s are not perfect, they strive to be perfect. They try to help us be perfect. Because in Matthew 5:48, it says, you therefore must be perfect, as your Heavenly Father is perfect. And so when we look at our 1s, our friends that are 1s, our family that are 1s, our spouses, they reflect God in that perfection. So when you see that in them, you need to understand that that's a little bit of God that He gave to them for us, for the body of Christ, for the world. The 1s are like, oh, because 1s, not only do they see those forks, but they were also critical of every teeny tiny mistake of their own all day long. So, but your desire to reach for perfection, that's something God gave you. You kind of just got to ease up and let it go a little. Like, okay, God, you made me a little like you in this. All right, if you're a 2, if you know you're a 2? 2s, I'll represent in the room. Okay, 2s are called the helper. They are warm, caring, and giving. They're motivated by a need to be loved and needed, and to avoid acknowledging their own needs. You know, if you're a 2, you just heard it. They'll help everyone in the room. They actually not even just help you, like if you ask them, they will see what you need and go do it. Just instinctively they know what you need. And they will fix it for you, and it will be, and that's a 2. But they'll run around doing everything for us, and they will never do the things they need. So that's kind of your 2. Quick overview of 2s reflect the love and kindness of Jesus, sacrificing themselves to care for the people around them. Hebrews 13:6 says, so we can confidently say, the Lord is my helper, I will not fear what can man do to me. So 2s, if you sometimes start to feel a little bit like, no one sees what I'm doing, I'm helping everyone, and no one helps me, you're like God in that. God sacrifices His own self to help us, even when we maybe don't recognize it, when we maybe don't reciprocate it. So if you're a 2 and you feel that way sometimes, just remind yourself, like, I'm being like God. I'm being like the Lord. I'm helping others. I'm sacrificing my own self. And I think that will help you a little bit to deal with some of that, maybe, I'm trying to think of the word, where like you resent it. You're helping everybody and you start resenting it. But think about that. That's what God does. He helps us and sacrifices Himself. And that's you guys. 2s, we need us all, right? Okay, type 3 is called the achiever. I'm not reading everything on this handout. I gave you more information than I could say in this class. So you have this to take home with you. 3s are the achievers. They're success-oriented, image-conscious, and wired for productivity. They are motivated by a need to be, or appear to be, successful, and to, hang on, I have a typo and I just can't. Okay. Or appear to be, I had to like fix it right there. appear to be successful and to avoid failures. 3s, they want to feel valuable, and so they want everything they do to be successful. And if you, 3s they're tough taking criticism because they feel like a failure. If you say one thing like, hey, this wasn't quite what it needed to be, it's like, I'm a failure. And I can't do anything right, and they also want to see that you acknowledge and appreciate the successes that they have, saying like, that was great. That's going to mean a lot to a 3. It might not mean a lot to other numbers, but to a 3, that's going to be very meaningful. Now 3s reflect the excellence of God. God does all things well, and he gave 3s a little piece of himself in that. Isaiah 12:5 says, sing to the Lord, for he has done excellent things. This is known in all the earth. The Lord does everything excellent. And if you're a 3 and you have that in you to do everything excellent, don't feel bad about that. That's part of God. He gave you that. He does everything excellently, and he gave you that desire to do everything excellently, to reflect him in the excellence that you provide. Okay, 4s. I'm moving along. How much time do I have? It's supposed to be done at what time? At 15 minutes? No, timekeeper. I have 10 minutes left?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sweating now. Okay, I'm gonna go faster. Type 4. Who's a 4 in the room? Probably no one. We have 2 4s? There's so little 4s, of the least number. Okay, I'm saying too much. 4s are creative, sensitive, and moody. They're motivated by a need to be understood, experience their oversized feelings, and avoid being ordinary. 4s don't want to be like anyone else. If you even say to them like, oh yeah, you're the same as my friend, I'm not the same as anybody. I'm my own self, my own person. Don't compare me to, I'm not the same. If you're a 4, you're like, yes, I'm my own person. 4s reflect the individuality of our God. God is so different from any human being or any person. There's no one like him. And in fact, the word holy itself means separate. Separate from. That's God. Psalm 86:8 says, there is none like you among the gods, O Lord, nor are there any works like yours. So if you're a 4 and you feel that, like, man, I'm just different from so is God. God's different too, and you reflect that in who you are. Okay, 5s. Raise your hand if you're a 5. Yes, my husband's a 5, so I have this special love for 5s. We don't have time for awes. Let's keep it moving. Okay. Type 5s are the investigator. They're analytical, detached, and private. If we go to a party, I'm wild, and my husband is nowhere to be found. Detached and private, they are motivated by a need to gain knowledge, conserve energy, and avoid relying on others. Conserving energy is huge for 5s. If they perceive something that's going to be happening, they're thinking like, how much of my time, how much of my social energy is going to be needed, even how much of my resources or my money or how messy is my house going to be after these people come. They're constantly aware of their energy and how much of it is going to be gone from whatever it is that they're doing. And they need to be alone to get their energy back. So if you have a 5 in your life, don't be offended by that. It's just them managing their energy, and it has nothing to do with you. 5s reflect God in that he has all knowledge. And while 5s are not all knowing, they are learners. And if they speak, they know what they're talking about. If you ask my husband a question, he will never make up an answer. He's going to just say, I don't know. But if he does know, he knows. And he will say, he's got research to back up everything he's saying. Proverbs 2:6 says, for the Lord giveth wisdom, out of his mouth cometh knowledge and understanding. If you're a 5, or if you know a 5, that's basically how it is. Out of their mouth comes knowledge and understanding. If you know my husband, you know that as well. So 5s, you reflect God in that. When you're talking and you've researched it and you know what you're talking about, God knows what he's talking about too. When he talks, it's true. You reflect that in him. Of course, we're not perfect. That doesn't mean everything a 5 ever says is going to be 100%, but they strive for that, and that's what they desire. Type 6s. How many minutes I have, Ava? I just need more than every 5. 6? Just you. 7 minutes. Okay. I think I can do it. I have 4 more to go. 2 per, 1.5 minutes per. Type 6. The loyalist. Raise your hand if you're 6. I just have to know. Yes, 6s. Okay, my best friend's a 6. Jody Owens, in the back. 6s? What'd you say? Thank you, keeping me on track. I don't have time for that. Okay. Type 6, the loyalists. They are committed, practical, and witty. They are the worst case scenario thinkers, and they're motivated by fear and a need for security. If you have a problem and you need like troubleshooting, 1s are gonna see the problem, 6s are gonna see all the solutions. So if you need some help troubleshooting, like, I have this issue, what can I do to fix it? They're gonna be like, okay, here's your options. Number 1, you can, and they'll listen for it. I'm not gonna go through a weird example because I don't have time for that. 6s reflect the loyalty of God. They're also so loyal to their people, it takes a long time to get there, but once you're in a 6's circle, like, they'll die for you. When you are in God and you observe His commands, He keeps His loyalty to us. When you are in the circle of a 6, they keep their loyalty to you. It's strong and it's hard to break once you have it. Deuteronomy 7:9 says, He keeps His covenant of loyal love with those who love Him and observe His commandments for 1,000 generations. 6s are like God in that. He's loyal to us. The 6s in our lives, they're loyal to us as well. Type 7 is the enthusiast. Raise your hand. 1 7. It's Sister Hildebrand's a 7. Well, just 100% 7. 7s are the enthusiasts. See, she came in the room, shouted something funny. Fun, spontaneous, and adventurous. They're motivated by a need to be happy, to plan stimulating experiences, and avoid pain. There's so much to say, but 7s are very good at avoiding pain, and so much so that they can experience pain and they can just turn it into a positive. Every time, no matter what it is, they will figure out how it's actually good. 7s reflect the joy of the Lord. Mostly all the time you're around a 7, they're just happy and chatty and just happy to be wherever. Seeing the good in the hard things, remaining positive and joyful. John 15:11 says, These things have I spoken to you, that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be full. 7s reflect the joy of God. Type 8, that's me, the challenger. We are commanding, intense, and confrontational. It's hard for me to answer. Okay. They're motivated by a need to be strong and avoid feeling weak or vulnerable. Yes, we also don't want to have this need to be in control, and it's not even necessarily like I don't want to control you, but like I never want you to see me be out of control. Does that make sense? We're more concerned with controlling our own environments and not necessarily yours, like whatever. But like if you see me, if I even start crying, I'm like weak, vulnerable. I see it as a weakness. Okay, I'm not saying this is good. I'm just saying that's usually where. Okay. The other thing that 8s do is that they have this strong sense of the truth. Like if you ever accuse me of lying, I will rise up with so much. Like I just don't. I value truth so much that I will say truth when I shouldn't. 8s reflect the truth of God. God is truth. Everything He says is true. You can depend on an 8 to speak the truth to you. If you want to know if you look fat in that outfit, they'll tell you. It might not sound like, yeah, you look fat, but it might sound like, maybe the other dress. Okay. Titus 1:2 says, in hope of eternal life, which God, who never lies, promised before the ages began. 8s reflect God in that. Type 9 is our last one. We're going fast. Do I have any minutes? I have 2 minutes. Type 9 is the peacemaker. They're pleasant, laid back, and accommodating. They're motivated by a need to keep the peace and merge with others. What did I write? To avoid conflict. So your 9s, they're very good at gauging the room. They know what the group wants, and they actually want what the group wants. Like a 2 will see your need and do it. A 9 will just disappear and become you. If you're a 9, raise your hand. Okay, so you guys are like, I said something, and then everyone. Okay, so 9s, and if you're this, you know. Like you can gauge in the room, like what do people want to do? I'm going to kind of merge with them to just keep the peace in this room. And sometimes you start to lose yourself a little bit in that, but God is a God of peace. And you trying to make peace, that's reflecting God to those people around you. 9s long for and try to keep their space peaceful. They reflect God in that. Isaiah 9:6 says, "For unto us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders. And his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace." So if you're a 9, and you feel like, man, I just kind of lose myself a little bit because I'm trying to help this group get along, you're just being Jesus to us. You're just helping us. You're being the peacemaker. And so if you are interested or you want to learn more about the Enneagram, I have at the bottom of your handout some resources. You guys see that? Yeah. So do you have the handout? Your phone died? No, they only said send them digital. So do you know any 6-year-olds? Because they're really good at technology. They can probably help you. If you have grandchildren, newborns probably. No, so there's handouts on here. Also, this is a freebie. My 6-hour series that I taught at our church is available on our church's app. So if you're interested in listening to that, and they're labeled, so you can even go to our church's app. If you go to the app store, it's True Life Church-WI. And if you download the app, at the very bottom, when you open up the app, there's a little headphone that says media. You click it, and I taught in the table talk, is the name of the class. So it says table talk, and if you scroll, you'll start seeing the Enneagram classes. And it tells you the numbers. So like it says week 4, understanding Enneagram, type 6 and 7. You just click that, you can listen. There's also a more thorough, in-depth handout attached to that. So if you're interested in more information from me, not that I'm like the complete expert, but I have done a lot of research, feel free to listen to that series on our church's app. Okay, I have 5 minutes for questions.
We're done.
You guys are my favorite. Okay, any questions? Yes, I saw your hand in the back with the straw. Go up first.
What Enneagram tests do you suggest taking?
Very good question. So I have taken, hang on, let me open up a different handout. If you go to the church's app, week 1 has like a whole list of tests. But let me pull it up here. I'm glad I've got my computer. But I actually took several tests to make sure that these tests were good too, so I just want to make sure that you get the right. Okay, so the Riso Hudson Enneagram test, it's the RHETI. It's $12, okay? They're not all paid, but this one costs money. I took this one, it's very thorough. It actually has like an 86% accuracy rate, which is the highest of the tests. So if you're really interested and you really want a solid answer, the $12 one is worth it. Truity, T-R-U-I-T-Y, they have a free and a paid version. And then Eclectic Energies, if you just search that in, Eclectic Energies Enneagram Test, they have a free one there. It's about 14 pages. It'll take you maybe 14 minutes to take that test. Okay, good. Any other questions? Yes? The handouts are all only digital. Yeah, so that Dropbox QR code in here, there's no like physical handouts. Good question. Yes, ma'am. Yes. So, well, it's not, I didn't create it. No, it's like hundreds of years old. But it means, it basically just means like, Ennea is 9 and gram is just like system. So it's like a 9-part system is what the word means. Ennea, 9, and gram, 9-part system. Yeah. Okay, yes?
What's your church app name again?
True Life Church-WI. There's spaces between those on either side of that dash. Yes? TLC-WI and it pops up, WI? Yes?
I'm just a 5, so I'm recommending the resources manager.
Please, please.
The Enneagram and you.
The Enneagram and you.
2 sides and very explanatory.
Okay. Awesome. Yes, she's a 5, so she said it. You should probably purchase that book right now on Amazon. Yes, Charlie.
Could you briefly explain how for someone that's new, when they're in stress, how can someone formulate?
Yes. So if you go back on your handout and you look at that circle, so like let's just only look at a 9. See how the 9 has an arrow that ends in red going towards 6? You see that? So, and I have this listed too on your handout. So if you go down and look at the 9, it says when a 9 is in stress, it goes to a 6. So you can recognize that. So if you're a 9 and you're stressed out, kind of you want to research the 6 a little bit to find out like, what do I do when I'm stressed? When you're relaxed and kind of in a healthy place and you're with people that you're comfortable around, you might start getting the healthy traits of a 3. That's kind of deeper, but that's a good question. That's a quick overview. Yes, you bet. So what you want to do there is really nail down your motivation. So if you're like, say you're struggling between am I a 9 or am I a 6, a 9 is going to be motivated by everything being peaceful. It's so important to them. A 6 is going to be motivated by needing to feel secure. Those can kind of be similar, but you have to look inside yourself because other people can't really help you with that. I do have, man, there's so much. I have this really complex test that will like kind of decide if you're struggling. See me after and I'll see if I can. Yes?
I don't know what that
So if you are a certain number, okay, I gotta stop.